Hello, welcome back to the channel. Vintage Fishing Reel Rescues, where I service vintage fishing reels, get them back out on the water where they belong. Today on the bench we have this Garcia 9000 spinning reel. This one's kind of rough shaped, quite a bit of corrosion, missing paint. It's also not wanting to turn very well. And it's kind of skipping teeth here a little bit. I don't know if you could see that. We'll take this apart and see what's going on with it. See if we can rescue this one and get this thing back working, back out on the water where it belongs. Start by removing the spool here. Ooh, this seems to be froze up. This button is supposed to push in to remove the spool. So this one I may end up having to tear it apart to get that spool off there and replace the spool. Seems to be froze up on the axle. So we'll start by removing the handle, then I'll remove these 3 cover screws and pull that cover off. Nope, this one here has the knob on the side here for removing the handle. And then there is this screw here on the side that, take that out, the handle will come off. Want to try to use a good screwdriver, one that fits the slot of the screw good, so you do not strip out the head of the screw. Makes it a lot harder to get the screws out when the head of them are screwed up. I'll stick that in my parts tray. I'll pull the handle off. Slide the handle in there. I'll put that little cap in there so don't lose it. We'll start removing these 3 screws here. I like to compare all these screws, make sure they're the same length and size, and if there is a different size or length screw, we note where that one goes to so we can get it back in the proper place. We don't want to put too long of a screw into a hole that took a short screw and go right through the other side of the case or break the case. Okay. Let's see if we can push that main shaft out. It's wanting to come with that side cover. There we go. Get the side cover off. And some rust, corrosion and such down into here. I'll pull this arm out here. Okay, that can go up there. Pull the main gear out. This one has bushings. It does not appear to have bearings. That bushing's stuck on that main shaft. We'll set to work on getting that off, then clean that main shaft up. Okay. Now I should be able to get that axle shaft to come out with that spool. I believe I have another one of these. I went to look. Another spool and axle shaft here. This probably not going to be able to get this to come off of here. It's kind of beat up. And that's froze. It's not moving at all. So I'm going to have to see if I can find my other one and put a new axle shaft and spool on that. And I'll work on that, try to get it freed up, because if I can, that'd be great. Okay, to remove the rotor, let's see how this bail's working. That bail seems to be working okay. The trigger work? Yes, the trigger is working. Let's remove this nut. We'll be able to get that rotor off there, and we'll get this thing cleaned up and back in service. I'm going to probably take an off camera, and touch this paint up. I have some paints. I'd like to paint that up and clean it all up. I won't make you guys watch that. I'll do that off camera and then bring it back. Okay, we'll pull the rotor off. There's the trigger for the bail. The trigger seems to be moving fairly good. The bail is working good, so we're just going to add a little lubrication. Oh, there is a bearing right up here on the pinion shaft. So we can pull these 2 screws, pull that plate off, and pull the pinion shaft out so we can service that bearing. Want to make sure it gets greased and not left dry. It's not nearly as bad inside as I thought it was going to be, because it did not want to turn very well. It probably has to do with the bushings being stuck on that main shaft and all that grease that's right there. It's aged and gelled up. Okay, so the axle shaft's going to come out through the back. The bearing will come out through the front. There's the bearing and the axle shaft. This thing's not too dirty inside. We have the reverse lockout right here. That seems to be functioning. We'll lubricate that. This is aluminum body, I believe. You can tell the corrosion on it. This definitely have some use on it. So, okay, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera. I'm going to clean this up, and then I will come back and show you the rest of the service on it and get all these parts cleaned up. You guys probably don't want to watch that. You've seen it on enough of my other videos. So I've got all these pieces cleaned up. I did take and touch up the paint a little bit on that. Didn't spend a lot of time on it, but I did touch up the paint. I did take this bale apart and the side cover and everything while I was working on it. Now we're going to start reassembly. Put just a little bit of oil down here in these pivot points, and that'll help keep that bale nice and free. Apply a little bit of this on here. Don't need a real lot, just a light coating is all. Okay, we'll get this bushing back on here. Okay, that bushing's in place. Put a little bit on there. We'll put the inside bushing back on. There we are. Okay, now down in here where the axle rides, I'm going to put a little bit of grease down in there just so I don't forget. There's also this slot right here that this pin rides in. This pin's what holds the axle shaft in. It is also what makes the spool reciprocate so that the line will get evenly wound on it when you're doing your retrieve. So let's put a little bit of grease in this front bearing here. It was quite dry. I like to put grease and oil. That oil kind of softens that grease even more, and they work together to keep this thing nice and smooth. This grease is not a very heavy grease at all. It would be just fine on its own, but I kind of like to do that. So let's put the bearing in. I believe, yeah, okay. I can put that pinion shaft back in after I put this front plate on. So I am going to do that right now. Put this front plate on, these couple little screws here. I want to always try to start these by hand whenever possible. Sometimes you can't, like this one here. I'm not going to be able to get down in there to start it by hand. Get it into the hole, and then, oops, I just knocked it back out. And then gently try to start it. You can feel if it's starting straight or not. It will not turn easy if it is not going in straight. You don't want to cross thread it. Here we are. Just very gently. There we go. It's going right in nicely. Snug them up. You don't have to over tighten them. You don't want them to come loose, so definitely snug, but they don't need to be super tight. You don't want to strip out the hole that they're into or strip out the screw. My pinion shaft, put a little bit of grease on it. There was a bushing that's on here I'm going to replace. I want to put some grease into the teeth on the gear so that gets lubricated. There we are. This bushing slides onto the pinion shaft. And that will go down into the body here. Okay, looks like I may have made a mistake by putting that bearing in first. Yep, I'm going to have to pop that out so I can get the little bit of clearance, that I need to get that the rest of the way in. I can probably even just loosen this, push it out where I need it. Might give me enough room to do what I got to do. There it goes. Went right in. Snug them back up. Don't want to forget to. There we are. Okay, that spins as it should. May as well go ahead and put the rotor back on. That'll hold that pinion shaft from coming out of place on me while I'm reassembling the rest of it. There's my washer. Here's my nut. I recommend using a socket on these nuts. I don't happen to have my socket set handy. And a lot of times you guys from watching these videos know that I a lot of times don't use this socket. I grab this pair of pliers. And that's working as it should. The reverse lockout is working. Now we have reverse and forward. Okay. Let's put a little more grease down into here on this gear. I drop a little bit of oil on the back side of that bearing right now, just to help keep that nice and smooth. Okay. I have my axle shaft. This is a new one that I had in stock, so I'll put this piece in. I'm just going to put a little lubrication on that just to help it slide in there, keep it lubricated during operation. It'll slide right in there, goes all the way in. And actually, I'm going to take that back out. I need to put my main shaft in first, which is this one. I've already lubricated. I'm going to lubricate the teeth on the gear. Fill the teeth up the best I can with this grease. There we go. Now I can drop that in. Okay, that's in place. Now I can slide my shaft in. If I would have put that bushing in the casing first, I wouldn't have had to have put that main gear in first, but it's fine either way. Okay, we're going to put a little bit of grease right here on the face of this gear, and the reason being is this eccentric drive right here rides against that, and we want to keep that lubricated. That pin slides into that hole in that shaft. I'll slide that in, and then it sits right on this eccentric drive here. There we go. It's snapped into place. I can see, you guys probably won't be able to see it, but I can see it did go down into that track in the bottom side of the body. Now I'm pretty much good to put my outer case on. Let's put just a little bit of lubrication right there, lubrication right here and on that. Okay, we'll put the cover screws back in. Want to make sure not to cross thread them again. Put this cover screw, stick them down in the hole. Start it real easy like that, and they go right in. Snug them up, but not over tighten. You don't need to crack the case or strip out the screw or the head of the screw. There we are. That's back together. Okay, we can put our handle back on. I'm going to put a little grease on this shaft just to keep it from corroding into the main gear. I've had that where I had to fight them to get them out. They get corroded. They don't get taken apart very often, and they'll get corroded in there. We'll put the screw back in. I'm going to put just a touch of grease on those threads just to keep it from getting corroded in there also. Aluminum and steel like to grow together, or corrode together rather, so I like to try to remember to lubricate them. I don't always remember. Most of the time I do. Okay, snug that screw down. We have this plastic cap that covers that handle screw there. Snug that up. Them do come off. Okay. Okay, and then this is the new spool. I'm going to go ahead and put a little lubrication right here on this spring and arm. That is a wear point. It is a moving part, so I'll put a little bit right there. I'm also going to drop some down into the hole where that shaft rides, maybe even a little bit of grease on that shaft to keep that button free and working so it doesn't freeze up like the other one did. There we are. We'll put just a touch on here. There we are. Now we can snap this into place. It just pops right on just like that, and there we are. Push this button to release it. That button likes to freeze up. That's what happened on this one. It's stuck. It won't move. The drag barely moves. The drag, I can't turn it independent of that shaft. So this drag here works. This is a brand new setup, so I'm not going to worry about taking the drag apart. So you can see the drag is working nicely. Back it off. There we are. Okay, this one is back together. I did have an issue with this side cover screw snapping off. I did snap that screw off. So that cover's not going to stay on anymore. I'm going to have to try to see if I can get that out, which I highly doubt. So I have to find another option to keep that in place. And this spring over here is popped out of place. So let me try to get that back in. And notice that because the bail was acting funny. It wasn't tripping correctly. Okay. There we are. Now it's working as it should. Well, not quite. Close though. I have to work on this a little more, get this freed up. This arm is sticky. I did take it apart, but like I said, that one screw broke off, and I'm trying not to do any more damage to it. So okay, and our reverse is working as it should. There, I can go into reverse. There we are. We got a little squeak from our handle here. Drop a lubrication down into there. Quiet that down. There we are. And now it's working as it should. I'm going to have to see what I can do about getting that piece of broken screw out. Like to have that side cover back onto it to protect that spring. And that spring, I don't want that spring shooting out of there. So I'm going to see if I can get a tiny drill bit. I got some jeweler's drill bits, maybe drill that out, or maybe I just have to glue the cover on. I hate to do that, but don't have a lot of options unless I can find another rotor. So, okay, thanks for watching this video. This reel is back in service. Once I get that side cover, it'll be ready to go. Thanks for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button and notification bell so you know when I put out another video and you'll be able to watch it.